Just trying to be helpful.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And Brooke can unmute herself if she hasn't already. Now I
Sure.
have to find. I can't find where I put the introduction. Aha, got it. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to introduce Delegate Brooke Lierman. She's a disability and civil rights attorney, mother of two, and a legislator. Brooke joined the General Assembly in 2015, spent 5 years as a member of the Appropriations Committee before assuming a leadership role on the Environment and Transportation Committee in 2019. She is also the House Chair for the Joint Committee on Pensions, sits on the Joint Committee on Ending Homelessness, and founded and co-chairs the Maryland Transit Caucus. Brooke is an advocate for her constituents and an advocate for families and small businesses. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be in Worcester County this morning. It's chilly here in Central Maryland, so I hope it's a little warmer there, although it's nice to see the sun. A huge thank you to Joan and Susan. Thank you so much for having me this morning. To Lori and Judy, I don't know if they're on, but a shout out to my Emerge sisters from Worcester County as well. It's just great to be here. And a huge thank you to all of you great Democrats for all your great work in Worcester County and Snow Hill and Pocomoke, Berlin, Ocean Pines, Ocean City, wherever you are. It's nice that we can all get together online at least. There are a lot of downsides to not being able to get together in person, but it's nice to be able to get together on Zoom as we all are able to do now. So thanks for having me on today. I know it's been a really challenging year. In Worcester County, you were hit very hard by the pandemic. I think at one point you had the highest positivity rate in the state. So I hope that all of you are staying safe and healthy and have been navigating the tricky system to get vaccinated. And I hope that you're able to get vaccinated soon if you haven't yet. But thanks for joining today. So I was asked to talk a little bit about legislation on broadband, which is, I always love talking about broadband legislation when I'm online. There's just some strange synergy about that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, but at first I'd love to just introduce myself briefly so you know who on earth is talking to you about this. So again, thank you, Joan, for that introduction. I'm Brooke Lierman, and I represent District 46 in Baltimore City. And I am a mom and a civil rights attorney and a disability rights attorney. And when I moved to Baltimore many years ago, it was for a clerkship, for a federal clerkship. And my first day trying to get to work, I went to stand to wait for the bus to take me to work, and it didn't show up. And I soon learned that the Maryland Transit Administration was responsible for running the bus system in Maryland and in Baltimore. And I started doing a lot of research as I was starting my law practice and working, started doing a lot of pro bono work for community groups around the city, and started understanding the importance that state government has in our communities, like in our personal lives, in our family, in terms of childcare and our public school system, in our communities, in terms of, transportation access, infrastructure. And of course, part of that infrastructure is our internet system. So District 46, where I live and represent, is really a study in diversity and also disparities, right? I represent all the neighborhoods around the water. So I represent the Inner Harbor and Federal Hill and Fells Point where I live, but I also represent 8 public housing developments. And I also represent all of the Latino communities in the city of Baltimore. So it's a really diverse and dynamic area, and I love representing it. One of the things that I've seen over the years is that we haven't been doing the hard work of investing in infrastructure in our communities. And I think that's true. I know that's true in the Eastern Shore, on the Eastern Shore, just on the Lower Shore, just like it is in Baltimore or Prince George's or Mountain Maryland as well. And what happens when we get behind in funding and investing in infrastructure is that our communities really suffer and we're not connected. And that brings me to what we're talking about today, which is what I was invited to talk about, which is, of course, our internet system. I think you'll all probably agree that throughout this past year, we have all been in the same storm, but we are not all in the same boat, right? Many of us are in sturdy boats and we are able to be safe and be at home. Many of us are in leaky boats, who, folks who didn't have access to healthcare services, who came from a place where they didn't know how, they were going to get by, and the unemployment system hasn't worked well for them. And of course, our internet system. One of the challenges that we have as a state is so many people are not connected via broadband internet. And COVID certainly has exposed an incredible number of these pre-existing inequalities and shortcomings and conditions that really demonstrate, how divided our state is between haves and have-nots. And one of the issues that weaves a thread through all of this, though, is literally how we're connected. And that's, of course, whether you're a Marylander who is connected to reliable high-speed internet or whether you're not. And you can tell it weaves through all the other issues: healthcare access, being able to work from home or not, whether your kids can get to school or not, whether you can start a small business and maintain that business and take it online. And it's so fascinating to see this and to see how it can connect all of us, or how it can keep us disconnected. Even connecting to your government. This session, all of the testimony, all of the oral testimony is done on Zoom. And so if you want to be able to give it oral testimony on a bill that you care about, you have to be able to connect to the internet. So this year, I've been working with the Rural Maryland Council and many legislators all over the state to introduce a bill called the Digital Connectivity Act of 2021. Now, this bill is about creating the very first statewide Office of Digital Inclusion in the state of Maryland. Nearly every other state in the country has a statewide office that's focused on ensuring that every member of that state, every person, is connected to reliable, affordable, high-speed internet. And my bill that I've cross-filed with Senator Sarah Elfreth and that Senator Addie Eckart is working hand in glove with us on is a bill to make sure that we have this office and that it has a wide enough, that it has a mandate to create a plan to ensure that every Marylander is connected to high-speed, affordable, reliable internet, and to then execute that plan. It will do that by working with local governments, by working with folks like Choptake, where they are starting on the shore to start moving, to start sharing and expanding internet, by working with our library system, by working with nonprofit internet providers, for-profit internet providers, small internet service providers that want to come in and work in a market, not just the Comcasts of the world. So it will be tasked with coming up with that plan. Then it will be tasked with creating a map so that we can see who's connected and where and at what speeds. And we'll be able to use that map and use other state overlays so we can see where the food deserts are and the internet deserts are. And we can do real work at digging in deep to make sure that we're meeting the needs in those communities in a multifaceted way. So I'm incredibly excited about this legislation. It's in the Economic Matters Committee in the House of Delegates. We had a great hearing, and I'm very hopeful that it will come out of the committee this week and hit the floor. It is going to be on the floor of the Senate this week. It passed through the Senate committee last Friday. I think it was Friday, Thursday or Friday. So I'm excited to see that come out as well. But I just, I wanted to come today to talk with you all. They asked me to come share a little bit of information about this bill because I know that internet connectivity is so important in not just in Baltimore, but in Worcester County, Wacomico County, and all over the shore, all over Western Maryland, Central Maryland, really to everybody. We can't have kids standing outside of Dunkin' Donuts trying to connect to the internet to figure out how to get online and do their work. And we can't build small businesses on the shore or anywhere if people don't have access to reliable, affordable, high-speed internet. So I'm really excited about that, about this legislation and about its ability to connect Marylanders. And I want to continue doing that work throughout my time in whatever way that may be. And I'd be delighted to answer questions about that or about anything else that I'm working on or bills that are coming through session that you've heard about. Be happy to answer questions about what we're up to in session and how things are going moving forward. And thanks for having me today. And I hope I'm able to come visit you all in person as well. Bill numbers in the Senate and the House. The bill number in the House is HB 97. So if you look that up, it'll connect you to the Senate bill number.
Gail, you had a question?
Yeah, so you mentioned the Digital Connectivity Acts, the Senate Bill 66, House Bill 97. What about the Building Out Broadband Acts, House Bill 1328, Senate Bill 824? Our Political Action Committee has been following certain pieces of legislation, and those happen to be ones we've been following. I was just curious if that's a totally different legislation, and also if you think that the build out one will also get through.
Great question. So that is the one that's brought by, I believe, Delegate Feldmark and Senator Katie Fry Hester. Their bill has two pieces. It's to allow joint trenching, so that if somebody is opening up, a road or a pit, that they could, the ISP could lay fiber at the same time that BGE is laying some sort of line. And then it also, that bill renamed the Rural Broadband Fund to the Digital Connectivity Fund. So in our bill, we thought it was important to maintain the Rural Broadband Fund as a standalone fund. So in my bill, what we do is we retain the Rural Broadband Fund and we create a new fund called the Digital Connectivity Fund. So there'll be two funds for money that we can receive from the new Biden administration's infrastructure bill. Yes, it's so exciting. I mean, I will tell you that's a big piece of why we have to pass this legislation this year, is because if we don't, we won't have a statewide coordinating office overseeing all of the work that is happening at the state level. And almost every other state has that. So we'll be at a really big disadvantage for applying for answering RFPs and getting information to the federal government if we don't have this coordinating office. But so their bill takes a little bit of a different tack than ours will. I think it's entirely possible that part of their bill, the trenching part of their bill, would pass. But then I don't think we will eliminate the Rural Broadband Fund. I just think it's really important that we maintain that fund and then we build from it rather than eliminating it, because it's done really good work. And so I want to make sure that we're continuing it. Does that help?
Yeah, and Brooke, how does that, how does the money get distributed to the counties? Do they have to have grants? Is it equitable? How do they decide?
Yep, that's a great question. So it depends. The short answer is it depends. It depends what kind of funding it is. So if it's sort of operating dollars, it will be, I believe, sort of grants from the office to the county. So if the county says, hey, we want to do a study on, this part of the county, a feasibility study on X, Y, and Z, they could go to the office and say, we think it's going to cost this amount. We're ready to put in this. Can you put in that? And the office would work with them to come up with a way to fund that. That's then another piece of the funding, and that's lower dollar amounts, right? That's like, millions of dollars rather than tens of millions of dollars. The big funding needs come when you actually want to do the capital work, right? Whether you want to put up an antenna, put up antennas, dig and lay down fiber. That's the actually more expensive work. And that work comes in after an internet service provider has said, yes, we're ready to expand. And this is how much it's going to cost, right? And we're able to absorb X if the state government is willing to grant us Y. And the state government will use funding that it's getting from the federal government to do that work. And everybody's needs are going to be different. So like in Baltimore City, it's less about laying fiber. It's more about putting antennas up and being able to connect folks to Comcast or to a different internet service provider, an alternative internet service provider through mesh networks and building out sort of networks around. On the shore, it's more about the physical infrastructure of laying the fiber, right? Both of them are about affordability and access and being able to actually connect to the network, but they take a little bit different physical forms. So I don't know if that totally answers your question, but having this office will make it so that there's transparency about how the funding is being allocated. And I think that's really important for people to have confidence that the dollars are being spent in an equitable and in an equitable way. Hi, Lori, welcome.
Gail, did you have a follow-up or?
Yeah, one quick one. There was also a House Bill 43, which was to create the Office of and Joint Commission on Broadband. Is that really a part of your bill? Creating
Yeah,
the
so
office?
that bill was similar to my bill. That bill is very similar. I love the delegate who sponsored it, Delegate Krim. She's great. We work really well together. I didn't know that she was bringing that bill. She has my bill, but that bill takes also a slightly different tact because it creates a House and Senate oversight committee over all of this. My goal is to have an office within the state government, and that office would be transparent to everybody. So you all would be able to see what that office is doing, not just senators and House members. And so House members and senators can certainly always have an oversight role over any agency, but I didn't think it was necessary to set up a separate committee.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
Rosie, you had a question? Rosie, are you there?
I am. I was on mute and I was talking.
No worries,
Excuse me.
no worries.
I'm so sorry about that. Hi, Ms. Brooke. Thank you for coming to speak with us this morning. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
This is a little off topic. I'm a healthcare advocate for Maryland Progressive Healthcare Coalition,
Great.
and I was wondering what's your plan, your healthcare policy in Maryland? I didn't see it on your website, and I was curious where you stand on a couple of bills that just went through the MGA session. HB 354, Maryland, the Healthy Maryland program, and also HB 470 and SB 522, the Commission on Universal Healthcare, both presented by Delegate Sheila Ruth. And how would you implement that in rural communities with broadband? Sorry, it's a little long question.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks so much for all your advocacy. I do a lot of work with Vinnie DeMarco and the work that is, they've been doing great work, and it was great to get the prescription drug board set up so that we can be monitoring prices on prescription drugs. And I've been a huge supporter of that. Delegate Ruth, Sheila Ruth is great. She was my roommate, my suite mate for a little while, actually. I just moved offices. The speaker determines where we sit. But before I moved, she and I had the pleasure of last session of sharing an office, which was great. No, look, I think her bill to establish the Commission on Universal Healthcare would be excellent. I think that's a really important step because I think what we've seen is that we've seen our healthcare system both overloaded in the past year, but also inaccessible in some ways, right? And it continues to be to too many people. And healthcare costs, continue to escalate, and they continue to, drive some people into bankruptcy, right? I mean, we can see how devastating healthcare costs can be to a family. I feel very grateful to have the health insurance that I have and the prescription drug coverage that I have. I have arthritis, and I take an injectable. I take Enbrel for that, and it's what helps me stay mobile. And without that, without adequate healthcare coverage, I would really, it would be scary. When I was in law school, I did not have health insurance that covered my arthritis because I had a pre-existing condition, and it was before Obamacare was passed. And I had to go, in order to access my prescription drugs and to be able to afford them, I had to go on scholarship programs, basically. Like whatever drug happened to have a scholarship program that I was eligible for would be the drug that I was taking that month or that, a few months. So I was sort of at the mercy of the prescription drug companies themselves. And I was grateful that they had those programs, but it shouldn't be hit or miss like that. So no, I don't know about that first bill you mentioned. I'm just not aware of it, and I'd be happy to follow up and talk with you about it, but
Oh,
certainly
yeah.
delighted to hear about to support Delegate Ruth's commission to make a longer term plan.
Oh, I would love to actually chat with you online to find out a little bit more about your healthcare policy and everything like that. So I'll
Be
shoot you an
delighted.
email, but thank you so much for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Sure, my pleasure.
Carolyn Francis had a question.
Take myself off of unmute. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for being here, Brooke. My question was, of course, your bill makes a whole lot of sense to us,
Right.
but where's the resistance at this point, particularly with COVID pointing to the inequity for our kids being able to access the things that they need for school? And so that's part A. Part B is why? Why the
Right.
resistance at this point?
Right. It's a great question, Carolyn.
I mean, your sense of it. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And I will say it's moving through the Senate, right? It's moving. It's had bipartisan votes so far and unanimous votes in both houses in the Senate. I'm very hopeful that we will have a vote in the House committee, as soon as possible this week. I wish I could tell you it's coming from this or that, but the honest truth is I'm not 100% sure, because it was up for a vote 2 weeks ago, and it was held by Delegate Seth Howard from rural Anne Arundel County. And my understanding is that Mark Fisher, who's also in southern Anne Arundel County, was not pleased with it. But at this point, I haven't heard anything negative about it from the chair of the committee or leadership. So I'm just going to keep pushing forward for a vote so that we can get it done, because I think it's really important that we get it done now. And we need to. I saw another question that what's the time frame, and I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if that means the bill's package or the time frame of getting broadband. But I will say that the time frame for the bill, we're trying to move as many bills as possible before next Monday, which is the crossover day in the Maryland House of Delegates and the state Senate. So we try to pass all the bills that we want to have a guaranteed hearing in the other chamber by next Monday. And then if you're asking what the time frame is, sorry, this was a message from Linda. If you're asking what the time frame is for the state plan, in the bill, we call for, in the bill as amended, which is not online yet, you can't see it quite yet, it calls for everybody to be connected by 2025, which I know seems like a long ways away, but it means that we'll be continuing to work. And if we get a lot of, if we're able to secure funding at the level that I think we'll be able to secure funding from the federal government under the Biden administration, then I'm hopeful that date will be moved up, and it'll just be a matter of making sure we have an office that's coordinating all of this work.
Are you expecting it to pass both houses?
I don't ever like to say I'm expecting things in the Maryland General Assembly.
Would you think, I mean,
I will say I'm very hopeful. Yes.
But last year, the governor vetoed a variety of things. I mean,
Yeah.
Would this be a kind of bill that would be on his veto list, or you have no idea?
I don't think that something like this would be on his veto list, because we have strong support from Republicans like Senator Eckert, and even Senator Simonaire has said, this needs to happen yesterday. So, I'm hopeful that he wouldn't veto a bill like this. Thank you for that. You're right. He did. He vetoed a lot of really important legislation last year.
Rebecca, did you have a question? Unmute yourself.
We all
Anybody
need
else has a
mugs, right?
question, put your name in the chat so I can call on you.
I don't know how to do that. Okay, learning. Okay, thank you for coming
Sure.
and really appreciate it. Getting back to the, there's some things I don't quite understand about this broadband, and I don't understand, is this anything to do with the Public Utilities Commission or whatever, Public Service Commission?
So I think you're talking about Chop Tank, perhaps?
Well, no, I'm talking, we have an issue here in Ocean City
Mhm,
where they've already put up some small cell towers,
right.
but the residential neighborhoods would like to push for fiber optic. So I was very interested in your joint trenching mention, but
Yep.
there's stuff about right of way and it's a done deal and the opaqueness of the Public Utilities Commission. And localities don't usually have a say
Right.
in where this stuff goes. That's number
Right.
one. And number two is it's great to have broadband, but if you can't afford to buy a smartphone
Right.
or,
Yep.
you know, a Chromebook for your kid or
Yep.
your school district is strapped, is there money in? That's part two.
Yep. No, great question. So I'll take part two first, if that's okay.
Okay.
So part two is, I think all in the bill that we have, we recognize that it's not just about access, right? It's not just like, do I have access to the internet? It's can I actually connect, right? That's why it's the Office of Digital Connectivity, not digital access. That's very intentional because you're right. It's not just, do I have the internet connection? It's do I have a device? And then I'll go one further. It's do I know how to use the internet, right? I mean, we have a lot of people who they're like, why would I bother connecting? I don't know how to use it. Or, okay, now I'm on, but what do I do, right? So those are also in the goals of the office that we have set out, that the office is to work with local governments, libraries, the school system to make sure that those types of needs and those concerns are also addressed and that there's planning around that. So great question. Your first question about Ocean City, yes, I think the trenching bill would help to solve the problem that you're talking about now in terms of getting fiber in. And by fiber, I think you're meaning Fios, but I'm not positive. Maybe you mean Comcast or any sort of broadband, but that is something that could be done. And there would be more of a statewide mandate through the trenching bill that Katie Freihester and Jessica Feldmark are bringing. Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's not to say that it can't be done if we don't pass that bill. What could happen is this statewide office could strike a deal with local jurisdictions and say, look, when you start digging, we have this deal now where these companies have to be able to lay broadband or lay fiber as well when you're doing that. So we'll be able to have a place to have those discussions by creating this office, which I think is so important. So great questions. Yep. I see Kathy wrote, I hope we eliminate plastic tags. I do too. We've passed it in the House. That's one of my other bills, is to prohibit plastic bags. I've had some good support from mothers in Ocean City and some good folks there. I think it's Ryan. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but some great folks and his wife. They've been awesome. And, I'm really excited about the single-use plastics are just such a scourge on our planet and on Maryland. And, Ocean City at Worcester County and Maryland's economy, if we don't get a hand, are really affected by the amount of trash on our beaches. There are studies that the federal government, that NOAA has done in Maryland, showing how many fewer dollars we will have from tourists if the rate of plastic continues to accumulate on our beaches. Because what we're seeing is that tourists, when they go to a beach and there's plastic, they don't go back. And then they tell their friends, like, don't go to that beach. And actually this happened just last week. My legislative director was at a beach in Anne Arundel County, And she said it was like one of the grossest things she'd ever seen. And she just spent the whole 2 hours she was there picking up trash. And she was like, I'm going to write on a message board, like, be prepared to bring a trash bag when you go, or don't go to this beach. And, you know, that's the sort of thing that we are looking at, a huge loss in revenue and tourist dollars if we don't get a handle on plastic bags, in addition to the incredible environmental consequences that our future generations are going to be facing. So I feel very fired up about single-use plastics. So sorry about that tangent. I just saw a comment in the chat about it. Thank you. Thank you for those questions. I appreciate them, Kathy and Cindy. And yes, in the Senate, the Senate is a mystery to me. I'm hopeful that it'll pass in the Senate. I encourage you to reach out to senators on the Finance Committee and your senator and others, but just to let them know how you feel about it. But it is definitely concerning. We'll see. We shall see. Any other questions or thoughts?
It's Cindy. I'm the one who asked the question just now about the Senate. Are there things you want us, the people who are here right now, to do to help you with the Senate?
Thank you for that. I think it would be great for you to reach out to senators on the Finance Committee. And, you know, I know that she is not on the Finance Committee, but even somebody like and I know she's not your senator, but somebody like Senator Eckert is, you know, a great champion for the shore, and is in, you know, a great position, and is very well respected in the Senate. Reaching out to Senator Ferguson, the Senate president, is always, you know, you can always reach out to the Senate president, even if your senator doesn't respond to you. And, you know, letters to the editor or op-eds are always helpful as well. But those are a few things. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm not, you know, I try to say to people, these are not small wins, right? These would be big victories. And sometimes big victories have long runways. And so we persist, right? And we will keep persisting because the plastic will keep persisting, and these challenges. And frankly, this goes for so much that I work on, right? The disparities in our state are really great. They are just enormous. And in order for us to move together as a state, we have to be tackling those disparities: racial disparities, economic disparities, health disparities, access to broadband, because we all do better. You know, I used to work for a man named Senator Paul Wellstone, and he used to say, we all do better when we all do better. And that is sort of a fundamental belief that I take with me in my work. You know, in my neighborhoods, I would always say Federal Hill can't be all it can be until Cherry Hill meets its full potential. And I'll say, you know, Maryland will never reach its full potential till Pocomoke City reaches its full potential, or Baltimore, or Hagerstown, or Ocean City, or Berlin, right? We all are dependent on one another's success. I feel that very strongly. And so it's part of the reason I'm excited to be embarking on a statewide campaign, which I'm not talking about here. I was told not to, but I am excited at some point to talk with you all about that as well. And to just stay connected moving forward. I hope this is the beginning of a conversation and not the end. Any other questions?
Joan, you're muted.
Sorry, Gail, did you have something else to say? Okay. I am, as I said, you said we weren't supposed to talk about the campaign, which is, but my question is, which sort of is related, is, could you really explain what the comptroller does?
Sure, yes, I can.
It's like,
No, it's a great question.
before
It's
we
like
decide who to vote for, we would sort of probably need to know what they do.
Yes, no, $64,000 question. Absolutely. So look, the comptroller's office is a few things. And I will say, everybody asks this, and it's so important. And I actually, if you go to my website and you go to policy priorities, you'll see a little tab that says, what on earth does a comptroller do? So I encourage you to check it out. But yeah, let's be honest. Most people, you know, when they first heard that I was throwing my hat in the ring for state comptroller, said, what's the comptroller do again? Why does she want to run for that? So a few things. One is that the comptroller is one of only 3 independently elected statewide offices in Maryland. And while the governor keeps our state agencies running and the attorney general represents us in court, the comptroller manages the state's money. Every dollar in and every dollar out, right? Also, along with the governor and the state treasurer, the comptroller serves on the Maryland Board of Public Works. And as I saw firsthand through my time on the Appropriations Committee, we would allocate funding for a playground or a road project or a school project, but ultimately it's the Board of Public Works that decides how those dollars are going to be spent. Who is going to actually spend those dollars? They get to decide that. So, one question that I think it's always worth looking at is when we are recovering from this pandemic, when we are moving forward, making sure that we're using the power of the purse and the power of procurement to really build up our communities and to invest in local businesses to make sure that we're keeping dollars here and helping to spur the economy. So that's all about the Board of Public Works and what they can do. Also, the comptroller helps ensure that the pension benefits for our nearly 500,000 retirees are safe and that they're invested fairly. But the comptroller also sits on the board, the state pension board, and helps set the direction for how our pension dollars are invested. That includes who's doing the investment. Are the investment managers that we're hiring as a state, do they represent the diversity of the state? Right now, I will tell you, they do not. And making sure that those dollars are invested in places that are in line with not only the needs to be fiscally responsible and to be a good fiduciary, but to reflect our progressive values. What we've seen other states begin to do is to divest their pension funds from fossil fuel companies, because that's such an important way to make sure those dollars are safe, because fossil fuel companies routinely underperform the S&P 500, but also to make sure that we're doing what's in line with our values and to protect our state and our economies moving forward. So that's something that I feel very strongly about, is divesting from fossil fuel companies and investing in companies that are looking forward and understanding the risk of climate change, because at the end of the day, that's a better bet for our dollars anyway. And finally, the comptroller, I think it's just important to think the comptroller really signs the checks for every dollar that we spend as a state, from tax refunds and small business loans to schools and roads. And so the comptroller is really the first to see the numbers that tell the story of how our state is doing. And that story includes the big picture impact that COVID-19 has had on our families, has had on our communities, and has had on our businesses. I think that the 2022 election is the most important election in our lifetime in the state, because it will be the first post-pandemic election in America. And so we will have the opportunity to decide whether we want to just settle for back to normal, right? Or whether it's a time where we can pivot as a state and slingshot out of this economic and health disaster to put people's lives in a better place, right? To help make sure that we're building financial resilience in every community, to help make sure we're tackling the racial wealth divide that plagues the state of Maryland, to make sure that we're investing in small businesses, that we're building on, that we're creating, that our comptroller has working and putting ideas into action, like big ideas on wealth building policies, and little ideas that just make it easier for families and businesses to pay taxes and access state benefits. So, I think that it's a really exciting time to get involved, and this is going to be a really exciting race. So that's a great question. Thank you.
Do you have any idea in the new relief bill how much Maryland gets and what it goes to, or has that not been figured out yet?
Yep, I do have that. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it. I have we did an analysis that I'm going to post shortly. And I will be sure to send it out to you as soon as it's posted on my blog, but hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and going to, helping our local governments, helping our transportation systems and infrastructure, helping our health departments. Let's see, on broadband, I expect there will be some money. I'm not sure how much yet, but there will be hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to come. For our schools, every school system is going to see money to help make sure that we can support kids through tutoring, make sure there's enough for PPE for teachers and schools, help to, I mean, frankly, even long-term fixes through air quality and whatnot is going to be there. So there's going to be a huge amount of funding available, which is really exciting. And will, I think, can be potentially a game changer for Maryland if it's used in the right way.
Well, Brooke, thank you so much. And as you said, I hope we'll keep in touch.
Yes, thank you.
It's going to be a long campaign. I imagine there are other people running, although I haven't been tracking that at this point.
Yep. No, and please feel free to reach out. I have an email. I have a website I've just put in the chat. If you put your email address at the front of my website, you'll get the newsletter that I send out every other week when we're in session. So you can see what we're working on and you can follow the broadband bill, or just drop me an email and I'd be delighted to keep in touch. And if you're interested in, we're doing volunteer meet and greets, online now, and I'd love to come out and visit with any of you. So if you're interested in meeting sometime, please just drop me a note. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so
Again,
much, everybody. Be well.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Brooke. Thank you. And you're more than welcome to stay with us, or you're
Okay.
more than welcome to go take care of business, whichever you prefer. But thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.
In honor of Women's History Month, which March is, and I'm sure that we are all aware, Susan Beyer and Linda Lindsay are going to do a very brief commentary. Ladies.
Yes, good morning, everyone. March is Maryland Women's History Month, and Susan and I are honored to take a few minutes to give you some information about that topic. We are writing in the chat box resources for you to access. Susan and my email addresses are included there. Anyone wishing the entire resource list, just contact one of us and we'll send it on to you. I'm going to read some excerpts from a proclamation on Women's History Month 2021 from President Biden. Each year, Women's History Month offers an important opportunity for us to shine a light on the extraordinary legacy of trailblazing American women and girls who have built, shaped, and improved our nation. During Women's History Month, let us honor the accomplished and visionary women who have helped build our country, including those contributions whose contributions have not been adequately recognized and celebrated. And let us pay tribute to the trailblazers from the recent and distant past for daring to envision a future for which no past precedent existed, and for building a nation of endless possibilities for all of its women and girls. I call upon all Americans to observe this month and invite all Americans to visit www.womenshistorymonth.gov to learn more about the vital contribution of women to our nation's history. Signed, Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States. Wow, what a breath of fresh presidential air. President Biden is forming the most diverse cabinet in U.S. history. At least 11 women will break gender and race barriers once all nominees are confirmed. And they will join Vice President Kamala Harris, whose election shattered the color and gender glass ceilings. For instance, first woman head of U.S. intelligence, first commerce, first energy, Treasury, Interior, Trade Representative, CDC Director, EPA Administrator, Domestic Policy Counsel, White House Counsel, Communications Director, on and on. This is what democracy looks like. In August of 2020, the U.S. celebrated the 100th anniversary of a long, hard-fought victory, the passage of the 19th Amendment in 1920. Our DWC Suffrage Centennial Celebration Committee worked hard to mark that celebration despite COVID cancellations. On the left here, you see a photo of part of the committee back when we were just starting. And on the right is a picture of us for our last activity before COVID shut everything down, when we went on to Georgetown, Delaware, to participate in the Women's Equality Day March. One of the great landmark events of the suffrage movement was the huge suffrage parade held in Washington, D.C. in March of 1913. Please look at the resource list to give you a link to lots of pictures and much information. There is still so much to learn about the fight to win the vote. Research is uncovering new information all the time. Recently, I attended a virtual National Archives program and learned of Helen Hamilton Gardner, a name completely new to me. She was a hugely influential and immensely important suffragist who became a confidant to President Wilson and lobbied the president for the 19th Amendment's passage behind the scenes in the White House as Alice Paul's picketers were outside demonstrating. This new biography of her life called Free Thinker by Kimberly Hamlin is educating me about this amazing unsung heroine from the 19th and 20th century. The ERA is being introduced and comprises the continued big feminist fight. Women's rights must be enshrined in the US Constitution, so local and state laws cannot take away our equality. Marylanders Rise Up for the ERA is a call to action to make equal rights happen now. Join the program on Monday, March 29th at 7 p.m. to learn more. Registration information is on the chat. I think I lost the connection.
Can still hear you.
Okay, I'm back, Susan.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. Should I start this page?
Yeah, start this page with
Okay.
Harriet Tubman.
One last bit about women's history information comes from our own Maryland U.S. Senators, Ben Cardin and Chris Van Hollen, and the Senator from Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar. On March 10th, they announced the reintroduction of legislation to bring a Harriet Tubman statue to the U.S. Capitol. Senator Holland said, "I'm proud to reintroduce this legislation today in recognition of Harriet Tubman Day, and I will be pushing until the Harriet Tubman statue is placed in the Capitol." Senator Cardin said, "We will move forward on this effort in her memory." And Senator Klobuchar added, "There is no question that a statue of Harriet Tubman should be in the Capitol." Now, back in 2012, the Maryland General Assembly passed legislation creating the Harriet Tubman Commission to fundraise and commission an artist to sculpt a statue to donate for display in the U.S. Capitol. Congress must pass legislation in order to accept the donation, and this bill is the critical next step in the process. It will direct the Joint Committee on Libraries, which manages art in the U.S. Capitol building, to enter into an agreement to accept the statue after it is completed. With the help and hard work of these three senators, it will happen. So happy Women's History Month. We look forward to the days when the experiences and accomplishments of all women are taught as a matter of fact through our years in school. This will erase the need for National Women's History Month. Until then, let's keep learning and keep working toward that goal. You see here a picture of part of the committee on our January 20 Women's March, and we're receiving certificates from Senator Van Hollen's Eastern Shore Representative Melissa Kelly. Thanks to Susan for managing the graphics. And I think we skipped a couple pages. Susan, did you say those for me?
No, we didn't miss anything, Linda. You
Okay,
got it
all right.
You got it all.
I wasn't sure my audio came through. Thank you.
Thank you.